What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Colby with Patriots Global, back here with another one, guys. It has been a hot minute. It's really been a hot minute since we went live, but it's been a hot minute since we were able to really come on the channel and talk some Patriots news. Before we get into it, there is a lot happening behind the scenes that I'm not going to announce just yet, but just know that the absence as of late is mixed with one. I did just get over bronchitis, so it's kind of hard to make content when you can't breathe and can't talk, but also working on a lot of new shows, some that are Patriots related, some that are just NFL news related, but really expanding myself and expanding what we're doing here at Patriots Global. So a lot of shows coming your way for this upcoming season that I'll be announcing soon, but it's great to just get back on the channel, talk some Patriots news. The vacation is finally over. It's ironic because I'm actually expected to go on a vacation in a few weeks, which I'll still be making content for. But the vacation is over. We're back here. We're back on the channel. We'll be making content consistently, doing live streams. I have a lot of videos coming out shortly talking about training camp, players to watch, camp battles to watch. So a lot of things definitely in the works. I want to give a shout out, though, to all of you who are currently in the chat already. We got Lemire May Bean You. We got Chris. What else we got? We got J-Pot. We got Ashton in the chat. We got Nathaniel. We got Joe. Hope everybody is doing well. Before we get into the Q&A, because that's pretty much what it's going to be centered around in today's live stream. It's the off season. We are in the thick of it. There is absolutely nothing going on until training camp that starts in, 3 weeks from now? Until then, we really got pretty much next to nothing to talk about. So make sure you guys start dropping your questions, your comments, your concerns in the chats, because this video, today's live stream, is really going to be centered around the questions that you guys have that I'll make sure to answer. But first off, we have to talk about what the Patriots did today, and that is extending linebacker Jahlani Tavai. This is a 3-year contract extension, and let me tell you, I'm really happy that I did not drop my video, because I was about to drop it, about a few players that the Patriots could extend, and Jahlani Tavai is one of them. There really isn't a lot of players at this point that the Patriots can extend, or that the Patriots should extend, because pretty much every single, they have a couple left, but pretty much after this Jahlani Tavai extension, every single key Patriots player that was entering a contract year here in 2024 is now locked up beyond 2024 and is signed to a multi-year contract extension. Jahlani Tavai just officially joins that group, with your Christian Barmores and whatnot. But this 3-year contract extension is worth $15 million. So that's, annual average is about $5 million per year. And the deal is also worth up to $21 million through incentives. The Patriots got one heck of a deal on Jahlani Tavai, and the only reason that I can kind of figure out on why they got such a good deal on him is, one, Jahlani Tavai probably just wants to stay a Patriot. Let's keep in mind that when he joined the Patriots in 2021, when Matt Patricia came here, Jahlani Tavai was a nobody. It looked like he was going to be a bust for the Detroit Lions, but another Detroit Lions player who looked like a bust comes to New England, just like it was with Kyle Van Noy, and the Patriots make, a diamond in the rough. They get the best out of a player that looked like he was essentially going to be nothing. Like he was essentially going to be a nobody. But I thought Jahlani Tavai would hit the open market and get somewhere between $8 to $10 million annually. And we know that contracts don't work themselves out that way. It's not, okay, well, he's making $15 million total. How do you break that up within 3 years? You have to look at the guaranteed money. You have to look at the incentives that are within the contract. And obviously, we don't have those numbers just yet. But the fact that for an annual average around $5 million that the Patriots are getting on Jahlani Tavai per year is one heck of a deal. And the fact that he's only going to make up words to $21 million total throughout that 3 years, to me, is absolutely insane. To talk a little bit more here about Jahlani Tavai and just kind of what he's done for the Patriots, you look at 2023, he's progressed each and every single year. But in 2023, it was his best year as not just a Patriot, but his best year in the NFL, period. 17 games, 107 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback pressures, 2 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. I mean, you could make the argument that he was the best Patriots linebacker on the field during the 2023 season, even better than Jawan Bentley, and that he was one of the key core defenders on the Patriots last year. You know, there was a lot of ups and downs with this team last year, but there were a couple of bright sides. Jabril Peppers, he was a bright side. I would say Jahlani Tavai was also probably the next bright side. Christian Barmore, another bright side. Christian Gonzalez, another bright side. Jahlani Tavai is just in that mix of really the very few bright sides that we had as Patriots fans during this past 2023 season. But to go along with that, according to PFF, Jahlani Tavai had an 85 overall PFF grade that was 5th best amongst defenders, or I should say 5th best amongst linebackers. So he was one of the best linebackers in the league last year, according to PFF. He had an 84.4 coverage grade, which was the 6th best among linebackers. He had an 82.9 run defensive grade, which was 14th best among linebackers. He had 11 missed tackles, which was the 5th fewest. And he had 2 interceptions, again, along with 6 pass breakups. Now, I think what we have to do is we have to look at what is he making compared to other linebackers in the league. You just heard me read off the statistics. You heard where he was ranked. Top 10 linebacker in the National Football League. Easy, not debatable, hands down. Now, let's look at what he's making compared to these other guys. Share my screen with you guys. Exit out of this. All right, so if you look on the screen, you can see that Roquan Smith with the Ravens, he is the highest paid linebacker in the NFL right now. He's making annually on average about $20 million per year. Then you have Fred Warner, Tremaine Edmonds. You got to scroll all the way down here, well past, as you can see, well past top 10 highest paid linebacker. And he's getting paid around the same as David Long Jr. with the Dolphins, Isaiah Simmons with the Giants, Kaiser White with the Cardinals, and Devondre Campbell. That's the same amount of money, essentially, that he's getting paid to when you look at kind of NFL comparisons, and he is much better than all of these players. I can't believe that the Patriots got this good of a contract from Jahlani Tavai because, again, the Patriots, they're not really going anywhere right now. I think there's a lot of potential. You hope that there's a lot of potential, but there's also a lot of new, right? You have a new defensive coordinator. I mean, yes, Covington has been in the Patriot system as their defensive line coach for several years, but he's taking on a much larger role. You have a new head coach in Drake Maye, who, I mean, he's only been in the league for a few years. He just became a linebackers coach for the Patriots only in 2019. He hasn't been in the league for that long. You have a new guy kind of calling the shots here with Elliott Wolf as your general manager or de facto general manager, or he's essentially a general manager. He just doesn't have the actual title of general manager. You have Jacoby Brissett, who's your current starting quarterback, but you expect that Drake Maye is going to take over for you at some point. You expect him to be the future. You don't know what to expect from him. There's a lot of unknowns with this team right now that doesn't make the Patriots necessarily the most attractive team in the NFL. And Jahlani Tavai said, I'm a top 10 linebacker in the NFL. I could, at the end of this season, go to a contender or at the very least get paid as a top 10 linebacker. And he didn't care to do so. He wanted to get locked up long-term with the Patriots. Let's keep in mind, too, that this extension will not kick in until 2025. He still has to play out the current final year on his deal right now for 2024. But again, another really, really good deal that the Patriots have gotten. And that's just another good deal that the Patriots have gotten this offseason. There really aren't many contracts that you can say the Patriots gave out that maybe they reached a little bit on, right? Like you look at Ramondre Stevenson. They might have reached a little bit on that contract. Now, we have to see ultimately how he plays and under Alex Van Pelt's new system, because if he goes off for 1,400 yards this season, you're saying, okay, the what, $9 million so dollars that he's making roughly, that's well worth it. But right now, looking at it from a wide lens, yeah, you're saying Ramondre Stevenson is maybe a little bit overpaid. But other than that, the deal you're getting on Jahlani Tavai, the deal you got on Christian Barmore, the deal you got on David Andrews, these are all very, very contract friendly and team friendly compared to what they could have gotten on the open market. And I think that speaks to what the players think of this organization during this rebuild, but not just that, what the players think of the future here in New England, because they've been able for the last few months, they've been able to see what Drake Maye has been doing, what Elliott Wolf has been doing, what the locker room has been like. They could have at the very least waited to sign a contract extension to see what the rebuild would have been like. But they clearly liked what they have seen so far from this new aged era New England Patriots, this new Drake Maye, Elliott Wolf, Drake Maye New England Patriots, that they wanted to stick here. And I think that that is a good sign for things to come here with this franchise. But that is going to be my take on Jahlani Tavai and his contract extension. Make sure you guys, again, drop in the chat questions that you do have. This is going to be a Q&A session. I wanted to hit on the news about Jahlani Tavai first off at the top of the show. Obviously, we just finished that. So now we're going to get into the Q&A portion of the show. So make sure you guys start dropping your chats. And we're going to get into the super chats here. So Trey Rules with a $10 donation. My man, he says, to go on a quick tangent, most an analyst have us being worst in the league, and one has us picking first overall in 2025. Do we take best player or trade that pick for extra high picks? So, Trey, I'm going to go off on my own little tangent about this because it is absolutely bizarre to me that it's not just NFL analysts, it's fan bases throughout the NFL. Everybody thinks that the Patriots are going to be the worst team in the NFL by the end of 2024, or they are going to be one of the worst teams, like bottom 3 team in the NFL by the end of 2024. And to me, it just does not make sense. The Patriots won 4 games last year. And if you look at it, they could have easily been a in the hunt playoff team up until the end of the season if just a couple more games goes their way, right? If you have consistent quarterback play, not elite quarterback play, but just consistent quarterback play, or at least an average kicker, you're talking about winning the Raiders game. You're talking about winning the Giants game. You're talking about winning the Colts game. That's just 3 games off the top of my head. Just 3 games off the top of my head that I could say right now, with, again, just better quarterback play, just consistent quarterback play, and a more consistent kicker, that the Patriots end up winning. And they had the hardest schedule in the NFL last year. And look, I get it. The Patriots have a hard schedule yet again this season, but it's not the hardest schedule in the National Football League. They through in and out had the hardest schedule in the NFL last year. And what did the Patriots do this offseason? Well, they drafted Drake Maye, but of course, nonetheless, even with Jacoby Brissett, if he starts with you, that's much better quarterback play than what Mac Jones gave you. It's going to be more consistent quarterback play. Not just that, but you brought back your key players who actually performed for you in a dull 2023 season, but you also upgraded. You're hoping that Chuks Okorafor can be an upgrade or at least equivalent to what Trent Brown was going to give you when he checked out. You hope that the injury bug doesn't bite you like it did last year, and that's kind of over. You had your year of injuries. Hopefully, that's not something that you suffer again this year. But you also upgraded in terms of offensive weapons. I like the Patriots running back core for starters. I like the Patriots running back core much better this season than I liked it last year. And Zeke Elliott is a great running back, but he's slow. He's not fast. He's not explosive. He was a guy that wasn't going to be stopped behind the line of scrimmage, and he was going to get you those tough yardage, but he wasn't going to give you explosive plays. He wasn't really going to be somebody that moved the chains for you offensively. And now you have an offensive scheme with Alex Van Pelt, a real offensive-minded offensive coordinator, because he used to be a quarterback in the NFL, who is going to actually bring, he's going to bring explosiveness to this offense. He's going to bring youth to this offense. He is going to marry what the NFL is today. And he's not going to do what Bill O'Brien and Matt Patricia have done or what they did when they were here, which is essentially just trying to do what the Patriots did in the early to mid 2000s. The NFL isn't the same as it was in the early to mid 2000s. You have to change with what the NFL is today. And I think Alex Van Pelt is going to do that. And Ramondre Stevenson fits in perfectly with what Alex Van Pelt is going to do. You then have Antonio Gibson, who just 2 seasons ago ran for 1,000 yards with the Washington Commanders. He's fast. He's explosive. At the collegiate level, he played as a wide receiver and then transitioned to running back when he entered the NFL. Not just that, but you also have 2 young wide receivers. You have Ja'Lynn Polk. You have Javon Baker. You're expecting that you have Demario Douglas excel in his second year and take a leap forward. You have young bucks like Kayshon Boutte performing and showing out in practice. The Patriots are going to have a better overall team than they did last season. And the schedule, although it's hard, should not be as difficult as it was last year. Yet everybody is counting this team out for no reason. Look, I'm not saying we're going to the playoffs, but people saying that we are going to win 3-4 games max, to me, it is absolutely absurd. The Patriots floor to me, the Patriots floor is 4 wins, equivalent to what they got last year. Realistically, I see the Patriots winning 6-7 games. It could potentially be higher, but realistically, my projection for the Patriots is 6 to 7 wins, and I don't see why that's not logical. But to answer your question, because I did go on a bit of a tangent, let's say that hypothetically, the Patriots are the worst team in the league, or they do have a top 3 pick. What do? You trade down. There is nobody in this league that is worth a top 3 pick. If it was a quarterback, maybe, but the Patriots have Drake Maye. If you have a top 3 pick, you're not going to go trade that pick for like a I don't know, like a Josh Allen caliber player, right? Obviously, that's in division, so that would never happen. But hypothetically speaking, right, you're not going to go trade that pick for like a Deshaun Watson. You're not going to trade it for a Kirk Cousins. You're not going to trade for a quarterback when you just drafted one 3rd overall. And there is no wide receiver, there is no offensive tackle in this league that is worth a top 3 pick. Maybe Justin Jefferson. But the Minnesota Vikings, they're not going to trade Justin Jefferson. They just signed him to a big, massive contract too. They're not going to trade him. So what I would do in that instance is I trade down. You compile multiple picks. You get yourself maybe another first round pick in that draft. So now you have 2 first round picks and then future first round picks. And that's how you build your team. The Patriots might not be a good team this year, but it is the start to a rebuild. And that's why everybody who was talking about trading down in this year's draft, I'm like, no, don't trade down. Get your quarterback. If he's there, you get him, because very rarely do you have an opportunity to get a player who can be a franchise quarterback for you, especially one on a rookie deal. So if you have the opportunity, get so, especially because the Patriots are probably going to have a top 10 pick in this year's draft anyway. And if they want to trade down, they can still set themselves up for the future by getting extra capital, by getting a future first round pick, depending on where they trade down and who they trade with. So I think that is something that's realistic for this upcoming season. But again, if you have a top 3 pick, don't stay pat. Don't trade it away for a player, because nobody in this league is worth a top 3 pick. MA Football Guy, my man, you said you're the man, Colby. Go Pats. Yes, sir. I appreciate you for being here, bro. I also see you every single week in the AFC East Roundtable. I saw you in the Patriots Roundtable 2 weeks ago. Really appreciate you. Make sure. All right. So let's start hopping in here with some questions. My boy Chris says, we in here, PG Tavai equals underrated 100%. Like I said before, top 10 linebacker in the league, and I don't think it's even close. Edgar comes in here and he says, which quarterback do you think will be quarterback 3 at the start of the regular season? So I don't even think it's a guarantee that there's 3 quarterbacks on the active roster for the regular season. You are in a position where the Patriots have a lot of different camp battles going on. Like, there are a lot of really good cornerbacks showing out. Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones, Alex Austin, Marco Wilson, Marcellus Dial, who you just drafted. If it comes down to keeping a third quarterback, or if it comes down to keeping an extra defensive back who is showing out in training camp or showing out in the preseason, or keeping an extra wide receiver, right? If it comes down to keeping like a Kayshon Boutte or a Jalen Reagor versus keeping a third quarterback, I'm going to go with the guy who's showing out. I'm going to go with your Kayshon Boutte, your Jalen Reagors. I'm going to go with your Marcellus Dial, your Alex Austin, or one of those UDFA cornerbacks that's been showing out, right? Because realistically, you're either trading Bailey Zappi, or you can cut Bailey Zappi and get him back on the practice squad. Nobody wanted to trade for Bailey Zappi when the Patriots were cutting him during last year's roster cutdowns. I don't know what would change. The only reason I think you wouldn't get Bailey Zappi back on your practice squad is if Bailey Zappi didn't want to return to New England. If he wanted a fresh start in somewhere where he felt like he could compete for the starting job, I think that's the only reason he wouldn't be on the practice squad. But I think if you cut him, he clears waivers, and as long as he wants to be back, that's somebody you get back on the practice squad. Right now, as far as, Joe Milton, he was a 6th-round pick. And I know usually cutting a 6th-round pick this early isn't, that likely, but he's a guy that's not really getting that much snaps right now in camp anyway. There's 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Jerod Mayo at first said that they weren't going to carry 4 quarterbacks going into training camp. Now he's saying that they are going to keep him. At least in 11-on-11s, you're not going to see much from Joe Milton. I don't know how much we're even going to see Joe Milton in the preseason. I think, maybe you see a few quarters of Joe Milton, but he's another guy that I don't think he's going to do enough during the offseason to dictate being an active roster quarterback on the Patriots roster or any other roster in the NFL. So he is another guy, Joe Milton, who I think that the Patriots can cut and get back on the practice squad. I think for the Patriots to keep 3 quarterbacks, one of these guys is going to have to show out. Bailey Zappi or Joe Milton, they're going to have a really, really good training camp and a really, really good preseason. But you know what? Even if they do have a really, really good preseason or a really good training camp, ship them off, trade them, see if you can get some type of draft capital, especially with the new quarterback rule. The Patriots can have one of those guys on the practice squad and use him as an emergency elevation. There's no reason to keep 3 quarterbacks in my mind, especially because, like I said, there are a lot of young guys showing out on the defense and the offense. And if it comes down to keeping a 3rd quarterback who's never going to see the field versus keeping a young developmental wide receiver or a young developmental cornerback, which they need, 10 out of 10 times, I'm going to go with the young buck on offense or defense. Joey says hello from Chapman, Mass. Oh, so we got Tom from Discord in the chat here, sitting waiting for the fireworks. A pleasant surprise seeing the notification that Jahlani Tavai got extended. Underrated guy on the defense. Yeah, 100%. I was surprised. I was surprised that we saw it this early. I thought that Jahlani Tavai was an extension candidate. So it doesn't surprise me that they got it done. It just surprised me that they got it done early. What surprised me more about the Jahlani Tavai extension, though, was the fact that another player is getting extended before Matthew Judon. And I'm not saying Matthew Judon has to be extended, but they have to at least do something to his contract for him to play. And from what I understand, we're supposed to hear something about Matthew Judon, very, very soon. So what's going on? Because it would surprise me with all of the extensions and the contract negotiations that the Patriots have had with players this offseason. It would surprise me if Matthew Judon is a full participant in camp, which, by the way, if you saw on my Twitter, he's been practicing with and training this offseason with Max Crosby and Cam Jordan from the Saints. So it looks like he's preparing to be ready for training camp. He's preparing for this upcoming season to play and show what he's got after that season-ending injury. But I feel like he's going to need that revised contract, whether it's extension, whether it's, adding money to his contract, whatever it might be for this final year. Something has to be done before training camp for him to be on the field. And it would surprise me if he did participate and was a full participant if they didn't give or they didn't readjust his contract. So I think that Judon contract does get done before training camp, which means they have like 3 weeks to get it done. All right, let's keep it up. Chris says the Patriots are not favored in any of their 17 games this season. No, and it's kind of wild to me, but then it's also not. Do I have the Patriots schedule pulled up here? I don't. I am going to be making a video, though, about some of the odds for the Patriots in terms of their games this upcoming season. So that's something that you guys can look forward to coming. But at the same time, too, I don't necessarily think that dictates how the NFL views the Patriots, right? I know that they're not favored in any of these games, but I think everybody's taking that kind of theory and they're running with it. And they're saying that the Patriots are the worst team in the league and the NFL views the Patriots as the worst team in the league. I think the NFL doesn't know what to think about the Patriots, and that's why they're not favored. How can you favor a team when every part of that team is new, when all of the important parts are new? Again, like I said earlier in this stream, you have a new guy calling the shots in Elliott Wolf. You have a new head coach in Drake Maye, who has never, ever been a head coach. He's never even been a coordinator. He just joined the NFL as a coach only back in 2019 when he became a linebackers coach for the Patriots. And the Patriots will also have a new quarterback. Whether that's Jacoby Brissett, Drake Maye, they're going to have a new quarterback. And if it is Drake Maye, a quarterback that we haven't seen in the NFL before, there's a lot of questions and a lot of unknowns for the Patriots. There's a lot of what ifs for the Patriots. And I feel like when a team has that much what ifs at so much important pieces of a team, how can you favor them in any game? So to me, I don't think that the Patriots not being favored in a single game should dictate how good or bad they are. I think it just dictates the Patriots have a lot of questions, and we know. Edgar comes back with another good question. He says, who do you see having a big rookie season at wide receiver, Polk or Baker? So the way that I see this, and I said this when they were drafted, and I stand by it, the way that I see this is Ja'Lynn Polk has a much higher floor than Javon Baker, but Baker has the much higher ceiling to where, I mean, we're talking 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. It wouldn't shock me if Baker is the more explosive and productive wide receiver in the league. He's making more splash plays. But I think Polk, straight off the bat, week 1, year 1, he's going to have a better season than Javon Baker. Also because Javon Baker, he's dealing with some type of injury. It sounds like, towards the end of OTAs, he kind of tweaked something, which then transitioned into the 2 days of mandatory minicamp, and he was limited. We didn't see much from him. That could linger a little bit, especially if it leans into the beginning of training camp. Both of these guys are going to be involved. Both of these guys are going to make plays. They're both going to get opportunities. But we already saw that Ja'Lynn Polk was rolling with the ones. He was in the starting offense. He's getting better and better as each practice goes on. Minicamp and OTAs, those aren't the type of practices that somebody like Ja'Lynn Polk should be showing out in. And that's why early on into these practices, when Polk wasn't showing out, when he wasn't making a lot of noise, some fans were freaking out. They're like, Patriots Global, like, is he a bust? What's going on? And it's like, no, he's a physical player. That's his game. He gets open from physicality. He's not fast. He doesn't have a crazy route tree. He's not a crazy route runner. He's somebody who his game is based off of contact. And as you know, OTA's minicamp, You can't have contact. They don't have pads on, right? So him not showing out didn't surprise me. But somehow in minicamp, towards the end of OTAs, he starts showing out. There was a point where he had 4 touchdowns. Actually, in minicamp, he had a total of 4 touchdowns. So if he's already becoming this productive without any contact, without the pads going on, I can only imagine how he's going to look in training camp when contact is allowed, when the pads get thrown on, and he can start playing the type of football that he wants. To me, I think that Ja'Lynn Polk is going to make an immediate impact. He's going to be a cover blanket for Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett, whoever the starting quarterback is at any given point in this upcoming season. But I think that Javon Baker has a much higher potential. Like, to me, Javon Baker is the type of guy that could go off for 1,400 yards, and it wouldn't surprise me. Ja'Lynn Polk, though, he might not be a guy that goes off for 1,400 yards. He might be a guy that consistently puts up 800 yards a season, 900 yards a season. But he doesn't peak off to being, one of the top 5 wide receivers in terms of receiving yards. But Ja'Lynn Polk could do that. So that's kind of how I see that breaking down. If you're asking too in terms of who do I think is overall going to have a more productive first year for the Patriots, 100% without a doubt, to me, it's going to be Ja'Lynn Polk. I think that he's going to have more yards than Javon Baker's going to. I think he's going to be targeted more. I think he's going to have more receptions. I think all down the stat sheet, Ja'Lynn Polk is going to be the much better receiver here in year 1. Especially, too, because what you have to understand is how much these rookies are going to be on the field. And with Javon Baker, like I said, kind of dealing with an injury, he's still coming into his ways. Sometimes he can kind of have those personality concerns, right? How much snaps is that going to give him year 1? Especially with how fast is he picking up the offense, as we're seeing Ja'Lynn Polk running with the ones. We're seeing he's progressing each and every single practice. He is also a really, really good run blocker. He's going to immediately come on the Patriots and be their best run blocker in terms of wide receivers, which is also going to get him on the field more often. Hey, PG, I was in Foxborough at Red Robin, and I saw free agent cornerback Gilly. I'm assuming you're referring to Stefan Gilmore, and he sat next to you. No way, Joe. Are you serious? I know that Stefan Gilmore was in Boston for Tom Brady's induction ceremony. So, Joe, were you at Gillette Stadium around like the week of Tom Brady's induction ceremony? Because if you were, that would make a lot of sense because I know Gilly was there. But, man, that's insane. I'm surprised that he went into a restaurant in that like mall strip right outside of Gillette, because Stefan Gilmore's a legend in Boston. He's a legend for the New England Patriots. Like, I feel like he would be bombarded just going into the Red Robin right next to the stadium. Hey, PG, got a question for you. You said all of our contracts have been team friendly. I was thinking it's a problem in New England. Wolf thinks people will love a questionable Pats team and take less. Did I read that right? You said all of our contracts have been team friendly. I was thinking it's a problem in New England. Wolf thinks people will love a questionable Pats team and take less. I could definitely see where you might be concerned with that long term, but to me, I see it as a positive, right? Because, like I said earlier, why are these good players taking pay cuts? They don't need to. They're good players. They're going to have a market if they hit free agency. The Patriots are contenders right now. Who knows when they're going to be contenders? You don't know what you're going to get from Drake Maye. You don't know how Drake Maye is going to coach. Elliott Wolf has done good so far, but he's only a few months into it. How's he going to look long term? Everything about this team is questionable. That's not exactly the sexiest destination. So the fact that all of these players are choosing to stay here and take significantly less what they could if they went on the open market, I think says something. Now, you could flip it on the other side and say that, Wolf isn't going to give out big contracts, but I think Wolf will give out big contracts if he needs to, right? Like with Ramondre Stevenson, he had to give Ramondre probably a little bit more money to keep him here in New England. But you know that Ramondre is a really good player. You know that he fits in your system. And you know that with Alex Van Pelt, he's expected to be a much bigger voice within the system. If you have good players that you know work for your team, especially if they are homegrown, meaning that you drafted them and they've developed here, then make sure you take care of them. And I think so far we have seen that. Because while we have seen a lot of, reasonable contracts for the Patriots. Again, Ramondre Stevenson, realistically talking about this right now in, July 2nd, it was a little bit of an overpay. Christian Barmore is the highest paid Patriot ever, not named Tom Brady, right? That's historical. These are things that Bill Belichick likely would not have done. I'd put my money on it that he wouldn't have. So I think that Elliott Wolf will give the money if he needs to. But if you can somehow get players back on reasonable contracts and team-friendly contracts, you should always do it because you're then going to be able to have more money and spend more money elsewhere. Because keep in mind, once free agency starts, the Patriots are going to have to give out bigger contracts, right? So right now, it's beneficial that they're getting these players on team-friendly deals. But in a year from now, when they go out into free agency, unless they have a Houston Texans, CJ Stroud type of year, you're going to have to throw forward a little bit of extra money to players who don't really know Drake Maye. They don't know kind of the new age New England Patriots. Patriots aren't contenders. You're going to have to give them more money to get them here, especially with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady not being in the building. That was a good point, though. Edgar comes back, says, Patriots Global, what game are you looking forward to watching this upcoming Patriots season? That's tough. That's tough because I'm really excited. Like the London game with the Jags, really, really excited for that one. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. I always like seeing the Patriots play the Seahawks. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of that, like, the Super Bowl rematch-esque. I know it's not the same coaches. It's not even the same players, and a lot has changed, but maybe that's why. It's just always a dogfight and a defensive-minded game between the Seahawks and the Patriots. But I would probably say week one. Week one, I'm actually really, really interested to see why, because there's all of the hype around the Patriots that we're finally going to see for the first time week one. Not just that, but this is the first time that the Patriots are going to be on the road to open up the season since 2016, the year of Tom Brady's suspension, where Jimmy Garoppolo started for the Patriots, and week one they were on the road in Arizona to play the Cardinals, and they ultimately end up winning that game. But I think that week one is a lot more winnable than people are giving it credit for. The Bengals are known for starting off slow, right? They're known for, as the season progresses, they get better. They're a team that has been good based off of momentum that they're able to build as the season progresses. It'd be one thing if we're talking about playing the Bengals week 10, week 14, week 15, later on into the season. That's one thing. But they start off slow. Joe Burrow especially starts off slow. Not just that, but Joe Burrow is still coming off of a season-ending injury. He's been limited in practice. He hasn't always exactly, been a full participant. So it's not even 100% confirmed that Joe Burrow is even starting week one. And if he is, he might have limitations. He's going to start off slow because he hasn't played football in months, again, coming off of that season-ending injury. I also am someone who believes that week one is winnable for any given team. I don't care if it's the Chiefs against the Patriots. I don't care if it's, the 49ers against the Titans, right? I think week one, it just comes down to who prepared the best. So to me, week one against the Bengals, it's a lot more winnable than people think. This isn't the 2021 Bengals who went to the Super Bowl and almost won against the Rams. It's not them against the current Patriots. And I think that needs to be understood. Real quick, though, guys, let's kick it to the sponsors of this video over at Aura. Do I have it? I do. Hey guys, sorry to cut the video real quick, but I had a very important question that I had to ask you, and that is, have you ever Googled yourself, or maybe a friend, or maybe a family member Googled themselves and saw their private information being used? Maybe like their name, their phone number, their social security number, their address, maybe their credit card information? God knows I have, and the only reason that I was able to find that and take care of it was because of today's sponsor over at Aura. So what Aura is an identity protection service. And what they do is they go ahead for you so you don't got to do the hard work, and they scour the internet for any of your information being used illegally that you didn't want them to use. The other great part is that they'll monitor your credit. They'll see if your phone number is being used to robocallers, which if you don't know what those guys are, they're essentially the ones that call you about 5 times a day. Because little do you know, these data brokers are actually trying to sell your information to robocallers, to spammers who are trying to find out your own personal information, such as where you live. So what Aura will do is they'll essentially send you an email or notification saying that, hey, someone's trying to use your phone number. Someone's trying to access this information about you. Do you want us to delete it from the web? Fortunately, in today's society, a lot of threats that we all face on a day-to-day basis come online. And unfortunately, the scary part is that we can't always see it. Aura's going to come in, protect you, protect your family from threats that we can't see and we don't even know are coming. So hey, look, you guys can go right ahead and let people exploit your own private information, or you can go to the link in the description box below and pinned in the comment section below to go ahead and sign up for your 14-day free trial over at Aura. Yeah, guys, so make sure you go check out Aura. Not only does it protect you, your friends, your family, you guys can share that link. Everybody who uses it is going to get a free 14-day trial. That is 2 weeks. Make sure you guys utilize it. Again, if you ever get those messages from like UPS or like FedEx and they're like, something's wrong with your shipment, and you're like, I don't think I ordered anything, but apparently I did. I should check it. That's actually your private information being sold online. You getting all those robo messages on your phone, your private information is online. Use that 14-day free trial and Aura will take it off the internet and make sure that none of your private information is being utilized without your information. Also, when you guys sign up, it massively supports the channel. So go ahead and click the link, sign up for Aura, and of course, you can cancel at any time, just like any other subscription. But let's continue on with a few more questions here. Let's see. With the fact that Joey Sly got a big leg and has been more accurate than Ryland, do you see Joey Sly getting the start week 1, or do you think New England goes after a veteran that may be available? So, yeah, look, I may have not given Joey Sly the appreciation he deserves. I do still think that Chad Ryland has the much bigger leg than Joey Sly has. But yes, Joey Sly does have a better leg than like Nick Folk does. I think it would go like Nick Folk, Joey Sly, and then Chad Ryland. But Joey Sly rather has been much more consistent so far throughout Patriots minicamp, throughout Patriots OTAs, throughout spring practices period. But football is what have you done for me lately? Do you guys remember back in, 2018 or 2019, when Maurice Harris was signed in free agency and bro was going off in OTAs? He was going off in minicamp. He was going off in the beginning of training camp. But as training camp continued, as it progressed, as the preseason came along, as the pads went on, you saw Maurice Harris start to disappear and you heard nothing from him. He ends up getting cut during roster cutdowns. Football is what have you done for me lately? So in reality, it doesn't matter how Chad Ryland looks in spring practices. It doesn't matter how Joey Sly looks in spring practices. What matters is how do they look during the preseason? How do they look during training camp? And I think that's going to dictate who ultimately gets the nod. But I think 10 out of 10 times, the Patriots are going to go with a kicker that is more reliable versus the guy with a bigger leg. So if Joey Sly, who, he has a big leg, but again, I do think Chad Ryland has the bigger leg compared to the two. I think you'll pick the guy who's a little bit more accurate and suffer from a little bit less of a big leg if it means that within the 45, within the 50-yard line, he's consistently going to punch it in, because that's what matters. I don't care how big a leg you have. If you can't actually get it through the upright, it doesn't matter. You can kick a ball 70 yards if you want. You can kick a ball 80 yards if you want. If it doesn't go through the uprights, I don't care how far you kicked it. I'm more impressed with how consistently you get it through the uprights versus how far you kick it. And here comes the day-old glaring question for the New England Patriots. What happens with Drake Maye? PG, could you see Drake Maye starting the beginning of this season? So I'm going to release a whole video on this because I feel like it's a hot topic. I feel like every Patriots media outlet is talking about when Drake Maye should start, and I haven't done so yet. And I feel like I have an opinion, and it's opinion that should be heard. But you guys that are here right now listening, you get a little bit of a sneak peek. So I don't think that Drake Maye should start week 1 unless these two things. Unless, number one, he consistently looks better than Jacoby Brissett. If he looks equivalent or looks better than Jacoby Brissett, especially in terms of consistency, then I think that that's something to look into in order for him to start week 1. But that also pairs up with the second thing he must have, or the Patriots must have: a consistent offensive line. I don't care how good Drake Maye looks. If the Patriots are in a position where they don't know their unit week 1, and if, let's say, we get to week 5 and we're saying that this is the 5th week with a different offensive line combination, Drake Maye should not be starting. The last thing you want is for something to happen with Drake Maye that happened with Mac Jones, and that's his internal clock being sped up. And look, I get it. Drake Maye, he's a lot more mobile than Mac Jones. He's going to make up for some of those deficiencies amongst your offensive line, but he's only going to make up for some of the deficiencies. He's not going to be able to make up for an entire offensive line that was mishandled. And that's not fair to him. Let's say that week 1, from left to right, the Patriots offensive line is Chukwuezekwarafor, Sidi So, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, and then Caedan Wallace. If that is the offensive line projection that we're seeing throughout training camp, and that's what they're rolling with week 1, then okay. If that's what you're sticking with, then that's fine. But the Patriots need to find the offensive line combination that they're going to roll with week 1, and then they need to stick with it. If they want to try multiple different offensive line combinations in the beginning of the season, and they want to do what Belichick does, and they want to use the beginning of the season as an extension to the preseason, then throw out Jacoby Brissett. At the end of the day, a few extra weeks for Drake Maye to sit behind Jacoby Brissett and learn and see what a true regular season is like is never going to hurt him. But again, the last thing you want is for his internal clock to be sped up, especially if there's questions with the interior of the Patriots offensive line, because it's one thing for Drake Maye to try to get around a collapsing left side of the offensive line or a collapsing right side of the offensive line. It is a complete other thing if your offensive line is collapsing from within, because it's that internal pressure that you get on a quarterback that results in sacks, because they're not able to get away from defenders when interior defensive linemen are coming straight at them. You know, if you have a guy that's collapsing on the left side, you roll out to the right side and either throw the ball away, scramble, or try to extend the play. When guys are coming straight at you, you really don't have anywhere to go except for down. So that's kind of how I feel about the whole Drake Maye situation. First step, though. First step is obviously beating out Jacoby Brissett. And I think that that's very realistic. But just because he might be the better looking quarterback on the field doesn't necessarily mean that he should start week 1 when you're thinking long-term anyway. I feel like I could get some hate for that. I feel like I could. King Cato comes in and says, on the flip side, what game am I least looking forward to? Um, Honestly, I would probably say the 49ers. I like the 49ers. I like watching the 49ers. Little interesting fact, the Patriots all-time franchise record against the 49ers is their worst winning percentage out of any team. Out of all 32 teams, they have the worst winning percentage against the 49ers. And the 49ers are the best built NFL team right now. On paper, they have the best roster from offense to defense. That is a star-studded team that somehow, Kyle Shanahan, somehow still have not won a Super Bowl. But I just think the Patriots are going to get absolutely whooped in that game. It's going to be early on in the season, so I think the Patriots are still going to have a lot of these questions. A lot of these nicks and knacks are trying to kind of iron out, right? And the 49ers are just going to be the much better team. I think it's at San Francisco too, if I remember correctly. It might not be, actually, but I think it is. Either way, it doesn't matter. The Patriots are going to get absolutely whooped against the San Francisco 49ers. That's a game where it's week 4, I want to say, and you're like, I don't even want to watch it because I already know what the outcome is going to be. So that's probably the one I'm least looking forward to. You could always throw in like a divisional game, like playing the Dolphins, I feel like is usually pretty boring. So you could always throw in one of those. The Niners week 4, the Texans week 14. Those games are going to be tough. I'm actually looking forward, though, to week 14 because I feel like there's a lot of similar parallels between the Patriots and the Texans, right? Between Drake Maye and I'm blanking. It's like on the tip of my tongue, blanking on the name of the Houston Texans head coach, but they're very, very similar, right? They both were positional coaches who then became head coaches in the NFL. They both drafted young quarterbacks within the top 5. I just think there's a lot of parallels between the Patriots and the Texans. I think it's going to be really fun to see them face off. Obviously, the Texans are the much better team on paper and really from every angle than the Patriots are right now. I think it'd be one thing. I think it'd be more interesting if the 2023 Texans faced the 2024 Patriots. I think that would be a really fun game. But yeah, I do still expect the Patriots to lose against the Texans. Let's see. Who do you see taking the division crown? Also, if you can get one player on offense and one player on defense to help Drake Maye, who do you want? Ooh, all right. So who do I see winning the division? The Buffalo Bills. I think that there's a lot of hype around the Jets. I don't buy into it. I don't buy into the hype around the Jets whatsoever. Aaron Rodgers missed mandatory minicamp to go to Egypt. And I think it's really interesting because supposedly it was an unexcused absence, but then it came out that the Jets knew in advance that he was going to Egypt. I don't care. You have how many weeks in the offseason? Because the Jets didn't go to the playoffs or anything like that. You had how many weeks to go on your vacations? How many weeks to go to Egypt? All this different crap. And he chose the 2-3 days of mandatory minicamp after he's coming off of a season-ending injury. He's only played a few snaps in the regular season with the Jets. And you're telling me you're going to skip that, skip working with your teammates to build chemistry to go to Egypt. I think that the Jets are really overhyped. I'm not surprised if they end up missing the playoffs. To me, they're not a Super Bowl favorite. I think they're way too hyped. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's going to be the Buffalo Bills. The Miami Dolphins, to me, they're inconsistent. They fall off as the season progresses, and that's when it matters most. Tua can also be up and down. He can be inconsistent. And that defense, they lost so many pieces on that defense. They're kind of trying to build up all the losses on that defense by bringing in players that were good, 4 or 5 years ago. Jordan Brooks, good linebacker. He was good, 3-4 years ago. It's not really that good now. They bring in who I think Campbell's on that team now, if I remember correctly. Is that who I'm thinking of? Who they just signed on the defensive line? Good player. If it was 4 years ago, they lost a lot of youth amongst that defense, the Dolphins. So I think that's going to be something that definitely bites them in the butt. And at the end of the day, it's 5 years in a row now. that the Buffalo Bills have been the divisional runners. I know that they have a lot of question marks amongst their wide receivers group, but James Cook popped off last year. I think they're going to heavily rely on that running game. They have Dalton Kincaid, who I think they're going to try to utilize as their number one weapon. And I just think that there's going to be a lot of bumps in the roads for the entire AFC East. But when you consistently win, how can you pick a different team to win? You know, the Patriots won the AFC East for so long. Even when they lost Tom Brady, I said, I'm picking the New England Patriots to win the division until someone can dethrone them. And the Buffalo Bills are kind of in the same situation. Until you dethrone them, I feel like you have to pick them to win. In terms of one player on offense and one player on defense, I would pick to help Drake Maye. That's tough. Are we talking about from the Bills? Or are we talking about like just any team? If it's the Bills, I would say offensively, I would probably say Dalton Kincaid just because he's such a mismatch as tight end and he's such a receiving threat. Like he's going to be a top 10 tight end in the NFL this year, 100%. Defensively, I'm trying to think who they even have on defense at this point. Probably Ed Oliver. Christian Barmore and Ed Oliver would be absolutely insane. They don't really have much of a secondary right now, so I can't really pick anybody from that secondary. Actually, no, they have who's the cornerback that I'm thinking of? Now I have to look it up. Who am I thinking of? Who am I thinking of? It's a Bills cornerback. It's going to upset me. Can't think of it. Rasul Douglas. So I would either pick from the Bills, Ed Oliver or Rasul Douglas, because Rasul Douglas has been a really good cornerback, even when he was with Green Bay. But since he was traded to the Bills, like that guy has been a baller. He even made some key plays against the Patriots when the Patriots played the Bills last year. But I mean, I guess when Mac Jones is the quarterback for the Patriots, he's always going to help the opposing defense look good. But if you mean one defensive player and one offensive player in the league in general, I would probably say it's tough. It's between Justin Jefferson and Christian McCaffrey offensively, just because obviously they need help at wide receiver. Justin Jefferson and everything he's able to do, inside, outside versatility. I would say the best catch radius out of any offensive weapon in the entire National Football League. But then on the flip side, Christian McCaffrey takes some of that pressure off of Drake Maye as a running back, but also as a receiving threat. He can line up in the slot. He can line up in the backfield and kind of just be an insurance policy for Drake Maye. So that's what I would say offensively. Defensively, give me, this is tough. There's so much good defensive players. Give me, I would say either TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. The Patriots kind of need help on that defensive line, and getting to the quarterback on the opposing team is one of the best ways to disrupt the entire offense. So I think with the questionable pass rush that the Patriots kind of have in the future, the Patriots have in terms of questions at edge rusher, having somebody who is one of the best, if not the best in the league, in either TJ Watt or Myles Garrett, I think would be so clutch for the Patriots. Because, I mean, you look in the interior, they have Christian Barmore. So if you have one of the best interior defensive linemen, one of the best edge rushers in the entire National Football League, I mean, how does your offense get any production? Now, that's a thought. Kyle asked, if you're the GM, who's starting week 1, Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett? Fast forward back a little bit. We broke down who should start week 1 and when should Drake Maye start. I put a couple of caveats on it. I put 2 caveats on it. So fast backwards a little bit. And you can kind of check that out. Who's going to get 1,000 yards on the Patriots this upcoming season? Ramondre Stevenson. That's the only player that I can confidently say is going to put up 1,000 yards this season. He's going to put up 1,000+ yards rushing, and then he's going to put up, I'm going to say 400 to 500 yards receiving. So Ramondre Stevenson, in terms of total yardage, all-purpose yardage, he's going to put up over 1,400 yards. That's the only player that I see is going to put up 1,000 yards on offense. There's no one from the receiving standpoint at tight end, wide receiver that I can see putting up 1,000 yards. Answer a couple more, and then we'll head off for the day. Pop Douglas. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Pop Douglas is gonna suffer from some injuries here and there. I think that's kind of what we've seen from him, is that he's explosive when he's on the field, but he might not always be available to be on the field. And I think that that's what's going to prevent him from reaching 1,000 yards. But I think he'll have a really good season. I think he'll have a better season than last year. In terms of how many wins do I think the Patriots have this upcoming season, expect within the next week, a week or two, to drop my way too early win-loss prediction. I have the thumbnail made already. I just have to actually make the video. Old Man Mob says, I'm hoping that the Patriots get a top 3 pick, trade down, and get a true left tackle. So this is actually a really, really good left tackle class. This is expected to be a really good running back class, a good tackle class, not left tackle, but just tackle in general. So running back, tackle, and edge rusher. Those are the 3 positions that are expected to be, I think I'm frozen here. Those are the 3 positions that are expected to be really good this upcoming season. No, not upcoming season, but in this upcoming 2025 draft. So the Patriots are probably looking at getting, I would say, a left tackle in round 1, but you don't have to have it be a top 3 pick. You don't have to have a top 3, a top 5 pick to get a good left tackle. Like, the tackle class is going to be better than it was even in this year's draft. And this was a good year for tackles. At least it's projected to be, right? You never know who's actually going to stay in college and who's going to come out, but it's projected to be. And then let's talk a little bit about Keion White to end off today's video. So for those of you who didn't check out my winners and losers from Patriots minicamp, make sure you guys go ahead and check that out. But spoiler alert, one of my winners was Keion White. And I feel like nobody is really talking about Keion White. You know, I was watching some other winners and losers and some other thoughts from articles amongst the Patriots media, and no one was talking about Keion White. From what I've heard, Keion White throughout OTAs and throughout minicamp has been very, very surprising. And the way that the Patriots are utilizing Keion White is as a true edge rusher. As you know, last year, year 1 for him as a rookie with Bill Belichick put him everywhere. I mean, Belichick really used him as like a Dietrich Wise replacement, which is why I was like, okay, so I guess we used a 2nd round pick for a Dietrich Wise replacement, even though I feel like you could just extend Dietrich Wise because he's been good for you for so long. But from what I understand, you're not seeing Keion White play so much inside, but he's playing as a stand-up edge rusher, not hand in the dirt, not in the interior, but a stand-up edge rusher, and he has been absolutely dominant. Now, of course, take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. There isn't any true contact. You can't really take too much away from playing in the trenches until pads go on and contact is allowed. But from what it looks like, Keion White is looking fast. He's looking elusive. He's looking strong. He's looking powerful. And being a true full-time edge rusher, I think will be very, very beneficial for him. Rather than moving him all around to try and just fit holes for your defense, play players where they're going to exceed the best. And we know that under DeMarcus Covington, one thing that they want the Patriots defense to be this upcoming season is a lot more aggressive. They want to be more of a 2019 version of the Patriots, where they're getting to the quarterback a lot more. They're making a lot more plays. And I think one way to do that is by having a really good pass rush and having somebody as dominant and as powerful as Keion White playing on the edge and consistently being able to develop there, I think will be very beneficial for the Patriots, especially because he's a good pass rusher, but he's also good at defending the run. He could be one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. He could be a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL if you just leave him there and allow him to develop. And I think that that's what the Patriots are going to do. So he's definitely a player to watch as you enter training camp. Oh, no, the last comment we'll get into, Mutt Viles, I believe I'm saying that right, said, PG, I liked you till you said my Jets are overrated. LOL. I respect the take with the Bills winning the division, but if the Jets don't make the postseason, who's in? No disrespect to like the Jets, that's just my true take. I think that there's a lot of hype going around the Jets. I understand why, but to me, let's see it before we talk about it. I feel like we're crowning the Jets as like Super Bowl favorites and Super Bowl champions, and they're going to win the division and they're guaranteed to win 11, 12 plus games. They're, to me, from an outside perspective, because keep in mind, I'm a Patriots fan, right? We've been through it all. We've seen succession. We've seen toxicity. We've seen our franchise fall apart. We've been through it all over the last few years. We've seen it all over the last few years. And I just see a lot of parallels from when there was a lot of toxicity amongst Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and kind of the downfall of the Patriots. I'm seeing a lot of those same things with the Jets. And I know Julian Edelman called out Aaron Rodgers a few weeks ago, saying that it wasn't essentially the best thing for him to do, to not be attending minicamp, especially as the leader of the New York Jets. And I completely agree. A lot of people gave him heck, but I completely agree with Julian Edelman. And you can't compare it to Tom Brady because, yeah, Tom Brady didn't attend the occasional OTA practice towards the end of his career in New England because of his relationship with Bill Belichick. But he always attended the mandatory practices, training camp, mini camp, because that's when your entire team is together and you have the opportunity to work on your chemistry, to work on the plays that you're going to be running during the regular season. That's what's going to help your team. It's better to show up during the mandatory practices than it is the optional practices for a reason. And Aaron Rodgers skipped that to literally just go to Egypt. To me, Aaron Rodgers is not locked in, and he hasn't been locked in the NFL for years. He's been back and forth with retiring and staying, and do I stay? Do I go? I think he would have retired if the Green Bay Packers didn't do him wrong when he was in his dark retreat. I think if he came out and didn't hear that the Packers were essentially trading him, he probably would have retired. We even heard he might retire earlier this offseason when it was the whole presidential debate with Kennedy. Now, obviously that, didn't happen. He's not retiring, but still, that was at least a thought in his mind, and he even acknowledged that. I just think that the Jets are in a position where they have to win this season. Aaron Rodgers, for his sake, has to win this season. Robert Saleh, for his job, has to win this season. And I think if the Jets don't win, then there's going to be a lot of turnover for them next offseason. I think Robert Saleh gets fired. They might be looking for a new quarterback. They might be in the quarterback carousel, which we know they haven't exactly excelled in as of late. Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson, you picked two quarterbacks in the first round and both of them failed, especially when they were high first round picks. Getting into the quarterback carousel for the Jets isn't exactly the most ideal situation if you're a Jets fan. I just think if you're in a position where your entire team, your head coach, your quarterback, everybody needs to win for their legacy, for their future, there are jobs on the line. Everybody should be in practice, motivated, doing everything they can to be better and to win. And the Jets just, they aren't that. Right now, I just think there's a lot of dysfunction. There's a lot of toxicity in there. And because of that reason alone, I don't think that the Jets are going to be as good as people say. They'll be better than the Patriots, but I don't think they're going to be as good as people say. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to win MVP at the end of the season. But guys, we are going to end it for today. I want to give, again, a massive shout out to the sponsors of this channel over at Aura. Make sure you guys click the link that's pinned in the comment section below. Sign up for your free 14-day free trial. Make sure that your private information is not being utilized without your information. Make sure that your credit card information, your social security number, your phone number, your address, your email, all of that. Make sure that it is not being sold on the dark web to prevent identity theft and all of that other terrible stuff. Free 14-day trial. You can't go wrong. Go ahead and sign up. You can cancel at any time. Appreciate you all so much for watching. Again, I'll be on the AFC East Roundtable as I am every single Wednesday for the Patriots representation. So tomorrow at somewhere between 7:30 to 8 o'clock. So make sure you guys go ahead and check us out there. And of course, Patriots Roundtable over on the AFC East Roundtable Friday night at around 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. A lot more content dropping on the channel you guys can expect in the recent days, but wanted to kind of hop on here, talk about the Jahlani Tavai extension and some of my other thoughts surrounding the team as we get back into it during this dull period for the Patriots. But I appreciate you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Go Pats.